Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. Happy Easter weekend if you are celebrating. We are here today on a special edition roundtable kind of Q&A with Sae Mickelson, who, if you read my bio from last week when I did the introductions, Sae and I have known each other for a long time, over 7 years now, for sure, maybe a little longer. And I just thought she would be a really great addition to hear from her in terms of her journey with coaching and wellness overall. I want to start with financial wellness, but then, we'll just kind of see where the conversation takes us. So Sae, welcome. Would you mind just giving us a little intro of where you're at and kind of what you do? And you're obviously an acupuncturist and a coach, and we'd just love to hear a little bit about you.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you. It's so wonderful to see you, Haley. My gosh. Um, yeah, about 20 something years ago, I decided to go to Chinese medical school. And, that was still an illegal practice in Illinois where I was. I don't know what the heck any of us thought we were going to do with these very expensive, very time-consuming degrees, but there was just drive to do it and to serve other humans. And that was an incredible education. Uh, it was exhausting and overwhelming, and I actually moved out of it for a bit because at the end of it, the laws were still so poor that it really wasn't going to go very far, which was a huge learning experience. It really helped me years and years later understand how to get going in a coaching practice because, when something isn't understood and formed in your mind, what we can do is really just sputter out and not know what to do with it. And so definitely that wonderful health training and then all of the beautiful patients over the years, when I did get back into Chinese medicine and got my license and practiced for years and years, the things I learned from individual humans was something that it's invaluable because I got to see the versions of suffering and how similar they are, and how they are really, in the end, so emotionally based. Of course, I was working mostly with physical issues, but it was very obvious to me that it was emotionally created over the years. And so I'm lucky enough to have had that education and experience with patients in real time in clinic. Probably my main interest to do this in the first place came from the fact that I come from a family that suffered a lot of chronic illnesses. And I got to see both the incredible benefits of having a very broad-minded approach to health. My family was very open-minded, very progressive. I also got to see the perils of trying to fix yourself all the time. So it really clarified for me that there's an even-handedness that is really important. To look at the whole is something we hear all the time, but what does that really mean? Of course, holistic medicine offers us a view of really looking at the whole, but sometimes that whole can be where we are pushing really hard for, quote, results, instead of really looking at the foundational pain that is in our way, our belief systems, our painful past that we're not willing to experience again or feel and understand, our thought processes around things that happen, quote, to us. These things are what I learned between family experience and education and then actual practice, to start to see that there has to be a consideration of what is the peaceful middle path in your life that allows for real growth, not
Yeah.
push it growth or I'm afraid to do anything growth. You'll grow that way too, but in a
Yeah.
rather stagnant way, scary way. So
Yeah.
yeah, that it was healing myself that I was probably most interested in.
hmm
And then getting to see all of the beautiful lessons from those around me trying to do the same,
hmm
that really informed my next calling, which
Yeah.
was coaching.
Yeah. I love it. When 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 I came to you, it was a friend of mine who recommended I try acupuncture after having a couple of miscarriages. And I met you at the Nest here in Chicago, and that was the start. Like it started with, for me personally as well, it started with wanting to heal from the physical ailments that I was going through, and then yeah, it became so much more about the emotional. And so when um, it was funny, like our sessions together, especially when once you moved up to Evanston and you were, practicing out of your coach house. When when I saw that you had become a coach, and it was just like, well, duh, like that's what, our sessions really were about anyway. I mean, we would spend the first 30, 40, 45 minutes to an hour, sometimes just talking. And then, you would treat my body as well. And I loved, the herbs that you supported, my system with. And then eventually, my kids as well. I mean, you saw Charlie a couple times, my son,
Mhm.
and I think Maeve was still too young, and she didn't really have anything major going on. But yeah, I mean, it's always our first line of defense. Even to this day is definitely to go this path. And so yeah, when you became a coach, I was just like, well, yeah, that's exactly, it's your gift, it's your gift. And you have so many, but yeah, that's why I was so excited to, because you and I haven't really talked since you took on this
No.
this added role. So what made you, I mean, obviously it's a natural ability, it's a gift that you have, but what was that pivotal moment for you when you decided to invest in yourself in the coaching arena and that space?
That's such a great question because I think it really helps us distill down and understand ourselves a little bit better, why we do rather large leaps. Where do they come
Hmm.
from in life?
Hmm.
I had been practicing for years and I just kept seeing over and over again, wow, I think I need even more skills around really helping people understand their thinking.
Yeah.
And I want this for myself because I find, and I treated a lot of practitioners,
Hmm.
medical, to even I think of social workers as deep practitioners of care in this world, and I treated quite a few of them and teachers, and I just saw, wait a minute, I need to be sure that my skills that I'm presenting
Hmm.
thoughtful, emotional coaching
Hmm. Hmm.
well. And so I
Hmm.
decided to take Martha Beck's 9-month program. And
Hmm.
the leap literally was me realizing I'm trying to take care of my family,
Hmm.
my practice. I
Hmm.
had my mother and family members who are not well. So I
Hmm.
realized, like I think a lot of humans, I was doing things on every single side of my life.
Hmm.
And I realized, I actually get to be nourished and resourced here. I'm
Hmm.
not sure I thought of that as clearly and concisely as I can say that now, but it hit
Hmm.
me. I don't think I'm nourished right now. I'm
Hmm.
feeling very pulled in every direction. So
Hmm.
it was a huge decision because it was a lot of
Hmm.
money.
Hmm.
And I just realized, you know what? This business that I am running, this acupuncture and herbal business that I'm running, gets to nourish me, not me just pouring everything into it, but it gets to
Hmm.
actually put back into me. And so, get out my credit card
Yeah.
from the
You just
from
did
but I just
it.
did it. I'd made the leap.
Mhm.
And of course, it was the best decision I could have ever made. Not only because it enhanced what I was able to do for patients, there's no doubt about it. The ability
Mhm.
to sit with pain that others are suffering in a way that is very clean, right?
Mhm.
I'm not in there with you. I am there to create a safe container.
Mhm.
That takes a lot of effort and care and
Mhm.
precision and love. And so
Yeah.
that was a really big deal to learn, first and foremost. And then at the end of the 9-month program, my mother unexpectedly died. And it was something that if I had not had these skills building, I cannot
Mhm.
imagine the complexities of our lives, what it would have been like, because it
Yeah.
threw a lot of logistics into my life. the emotionality that I
Mhm.
couldn't even begin to describe, not expecting her death, how
Yeah.
important she was in our lives, et cetera, et cetera. If I hadn't had some of these tools that I've been building because I
Mhm.
was so busy doing so many other things, I
Yeah.
think I would have put my head down, barreled through,
Mhm.
and learned almost nothing from that experience, just internalized a whole lot of pain. And so I'm
Yeah.
forever grateful that I
Yeah.
had that
Absolutely.
that support.
Yeah, I agree. Like those are the tools. Like I view death so much differently now, just having the tools that, and even when it's close to you, and so it it's a beautiful process, right? Of becoming when you invest in yourself in this level, and you have those skills and those tool sets. I love that you started, with the physical aspects of health and wellness, and where you landed, and you still practice the physical aspects as well, but it's the mental aspects, right? When we have control over our minds and the thoughts that we think, um, it's amazing what we can create and how we can be of service to other people. And I believe that we all have that ability, and and that's why I do what I do, is to help people understand that they can have that power. They have that power too. And it's all within us.
Because
You're in North Carolina.
I am. I
Hmm.
am. Another benefit of coaching, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, I moved twice during the pandemic. I don't recommend
Mhm.
it, but I feel pretty badassy about it, I'm not gonna lie, because it was something that I just felt called to do, which I now allow for very
Mhm.
openly in my life.
Yeah.
My family and I decided, we could stay here. However,
Mhm.
we've been wanting to do a big move to somewhere that gives us a lot of outdoor
Mhm.
opportunities. And so we just opened our minds and made it happen. And
Mhm.
I now live in a beautiful mountain town and in a home that I love with a rushing stream behind it that means everything.
Mm.
And that was truly created because I thought I could.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You brought up the pandemic. There's been a lot of talk lately about, and I think I've seen a few of your posts as well. But I want to, it's a little slightly off topic, but I am curious to get your thoughts, because I know we've kind of talked about it before as well. That there's been a lot of talk about how this has affected everyone for sure, but our youth and the different age groups. And I'm experiencing it personally with my teenagers, with Charlie and Ellie. Is a much different conversation than with Maeve, who, she's in first grade. She's 6 now. She'll be 7 in a couple months. So just like totally different emotional needs and impacted differently. I was talking to a girlfriend of mine. She has a middle schooler. Again, just same thing. She was like, she brought it to my attention. She said, these kids need to learn how to handle their shit, is what she said, quite frankly, but she's like, because they just didn't, it's been absent, these social skills. And she said, there's no therapy right now. Like, there are hardly any child therapists out there that can know how to properly address this. And so coaching is where it's at, especially mindset coaching. And so I would just love to get your take on this and what you've experienced. And have you worked with any children yet? Or, I mean, I'm sure you have. I know you probably worked with families, but I'd love to just get your take.
Oh, it really, that's such a powerful series of thoughts, isn't it?
Hmm.
What are we in the midst of with these kiddos? Okay. So, one of the things that I learned in practice after seeing parents suffer so profoundly about their children's experiences
Hmm.
is the understanding that every human gets to have their experience. In other words, we compound our children's um, challenges
Hmm.
when we don't really accept that they get to have them,
Hmm.
that they get to have the very era that they were born into, that they get to have the very experiences that are seemingly theirs, and that we are not, as parents, in charge of paving the ground that they eventually ride to great success or whatever we've built in our minds, as the
Mm-hmm.
necessity. uh, we are not only not responsible for that, that it is actually endangering to their very important sense of self.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very understandable. We have to be real gentle with ourselves. Of course, we want to do everything we can. I mean, my goodness, I've got two teenagers myself who mean the entire world to me, obviously. But it is incredibly important for me to always tap back into that real truth that landed when I finally understood it. This
Mm-hmm.
is their life and their experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now having said that, the reason I think you are just so dead on that coaching is so important right now is because it is very solution based, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is very strength based, like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
let's learn what's working and what's not. What is the
Mm-hmm.
thing that's just continually happening? Look at that big girl.
Mm-hmm.
Hello. Oh boy, I remember you were in your mama's bed.
Yeah.
What in the world? It is truly um, so incredible that what we're learning and what we're doing will help us manage ourselves
Mm-hmm.
in such a way that we won't be putting any of our anxieties about their anxieties and their
Yeah.
troubles
Yeah.
further upon them, giving them the at least subconscious
Mm-hmm.
idea that they don't got it.
Right.
Like, I
Right.
can't manage my own dang life. And that
Right.
is the least, beneficial thing we could ever do for our kids.
Yeah.
And there are so many coaching tools. This is not about bypassing the pain or anxiety that is very real. These things
Mm-hmm.
are very real. We are in the midst of an era that is inviting us to crack everything wide open and look
Mm-hmm.
at it from every
Mm-hmm.
angle,
Yeah.
maybe even smash it up a bit and then
Yep.
look at the shards. I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking right down to the
Exactly.
cellular level for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So there
Mm-hmm.
is there's a lot of confusion and chaos and overwhelm. That's all real.
Yeah.
So any skills that we can utilize that help ground
Mm-hmm.
and see the lesson in each of the struggles
Yep.
and give ourselves great grace and understanding around the
Mm-hmm.
feelings and the confusion and the overwhelm,
Yeah.
it's going to be a great gift to our kiddos because they need to see that that's available, we need to model
Absolutely.
that.
Yep.
And then
Absolutely.
also we can be, giving them the idea that we know they will figure this out. This is the era they were born to.
Mm-hmm.
They can do it.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I always say, like, the coaching and mindset coaching is all about giving, empowering people and giving them the tools to be able to create, right? To be able to create whatever it is that they want for themselves. And it's, yeah, they're just, it's such, to have that tool set is, I think, more critical now than ever. When I remember, the first lockdown happened, I mean, I was in house working directly for Bob Proctor and, in PGI at the time. And I mean, we couldn't, like, we were so busy with just giving away free coaching services because people needed it. They were looking for answers,
Yes.
and they didn't want to, they had the time, and they don't want to find, even now, they don't want to find themselves in the same situation again, because you just don't know, whether that be in a job or with finances or relationships or health. And so it's, yeah, they're vital life skills that should be taught in school, and they're just not. And I love, like, say homeschooled her kids from what age on, from middle school on.
My son was he would have been going into seventh grade, and my daughter would have been going into fourth grade when we decided to
Hmm.
do this big jump
Yeah.
off of the
Yeah.
proverbial cliff and become
Yeah, but
mentors.
I just love, like, learning, they you gave them real life skills, by how how you taught them and what you exposed them to. And I it's just it's critical, right? It's so critical for our youth to be able to have those. Keith, I'm sorry, did you want to jump in and ask a question?
Yeah. Say, as you were talking, I'm very intrigued, by the way, with your acupuncture practice.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things that you mentioned was the physical and the emotional aspect. So I just wanted to, you know, understand from your perspective when you started seeing or when you started gaining insight into, the connection between the physical and the emotional.
I would say the first few years of practice, all you're doing is white knuckling a lot of times. I've got a lot of friends who are doctors also, and they'll tell you, you walk in and you're supposed to have a bunch of solutions, right? You're supposed to fix people and their problems when they come in. And frankly, as an acupuncturist, when people came to me all those years back, they had tried everything else. So they generally came in and they were in their worst place, and they were also thinking, quote, nothing works, so I may as well try this. That used to be the thinking. I would say that acupuncture and Chinese medicine has come very, very far in the United States now, and that's not the case, but it was then. And I distinctly remember thinking, okay, I've got to prove that I can do all this stuff, right? I was improving energy all the time, efforting. And of course, within a few years, it was very evident that I could do everything I wanted to do for a patient and more. And if they were not going to take the herbs or take some of the lifestyle advice, or start looking to themselves and seeing what was or wasn't working and start applying that, if they weren't going to come for the appointments, we weren't going to get anywhere. And so that was the first indication of, I guess it really isn't just about what I do. It's also about, well, first of all, there's a co-creation in life that is incredibly important to acknowledge, in everything, between mind and body, between, humans, in general, who are both working together, for a purpose. A family needs to look at co-creation. All these things started coming to me because I would see the patterns in the people that would come with the problems that they had. And so over the years, it became evident. I think I really need to look at way more of the emotionality, and understand how I could start supporting people that way. Now, Chinese medicine actually has a lot of answers towards that. We just don't, as Westerners, often understand them. They explain deep emotionality about each of the organs, and what disconnection means between heart and, they didn't really say mind, but the spirit of the body. Um, so that information was all there. I just couldn't really understand it very well for many years until I saw it in practice. Uh, Chinese medicine is all about patterns. You literally look for what patterns are working and not working. That's the development of the medicine, actually, was this works, this doesn't, here's why, documented. This works, this doesn't, here's why, documented. And the Chinese were just deeply academic people, even a couple thousand, many thousands of years ago. And they wrote it all down. And it was wonderfully, put together in tomes that were mostly kept. I mean, there was some warring and things that happened that created some chasms in some of the knowledge, but big chunks of information are there that show patterns in human culture. And so it trains your brain to look for that,
Mm-hmm.
and then you start seeing it yourself. But I will tell you, for years and years, I still was looking at how can I help them with their patterns? How
Mm-hmm.
can I do this to help them see X, Y, and Z, instead of realizing, wait a minute, I need to look at my own patterns and see what is or is not working for me. What am I willing to really examine about myself became very evident after many years of practice. And I saw what that actually did and how it benefited the, patient when I
Yeah.
did my work. So then moving towards coaching, it felt like such a natural process of, this is home. Like this has
Mm-hmm.
got all of the parts to
Yeah.
it
I,
for me.
I love that you said pattern, because that is what, in what I coach is we call them paradigms.
Mhm.
or programming, but it's a pattern. It's a pattern that we run on, and a lot of times these patterns or programs or paradigms are they're formed for us before we even are aware of it, and then are we just continue we just like live out our life habitually that way, and it lives in our subconscious, which controls almost all of our results. And so that's fascinating. I didn't realize that about Chinese medicine, that there was a study of that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I used to say it like this to patients before I had really the words for it. I would say we're just a bundle of habits.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
those are just, and I, of course, now I've done a lot of complex childhood trauma study through NARM. And that really informed me about how we are absolutely a bundle of, um, you know, survival mechanisms that were
Yeah.
created way before we understood whether or not they were going to work long term.
Mm-hmm.
These mechanisms that we put into place, they're very
Mm-hmm.
important. At the
Mm-hmm.
time, they were developed brilliantly by our body and mind to take care of what was needed in the situation when we were young and not knowing what else to
Mm-hmm.
do.
Right.
However, it's really important to examine those as you get older, else you're living in a child consciousness, making decisions
Mm-hmm.
from child consciousness.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Um, Well, I feel like compelled to say too, not only did Say help me with, the birth of my daughter, but I mean, just even through, my cancer with melanoma and leaving my corporate career and starting my own business. I mean, so I, believe just so wholeheartedly in you and your practice and what you do and how you help and serve. And I think even indirectly, I got into this not really even realizing, until I saw your path unfold. Like, oh, that's exactly what we were doing. Is
Mhm.
we were doing coaching, and it,
Sure.
I think what it was is like I just kept following the feeling of what felt right. And when I think so, for me, advice to anyone is just really just trust your instinct and
Mm.
just follow that feeling with who it is that you feel compelled to work with or talk to or surround yourself with, what you choose to read and study. I mean, you just have to, because everyone's different, right? I believe like who oftentimes I have people that, I even like fellow coaches with in my like people that I've trained with, I have clients or friends that'll say, "Oh, you're collaborating with them? Like, well, what isn't that a competition?" And I was like, "No, that's the beauty of this industry
Mm.
is that who you're meant to help and serve is going to be different than who I'm meant to help and serve." And it's just such a beautiful collaboration of how can we help elevate, mass conscious awareness that everyone has this power and ability locked up in them. So
Doesn't
um,
it feel so
yeah.
broad, so
Uh,
huge
uh,
and expansive to believe that there is exactly who you will help will find
mhm,
you, and that
mhm,
there is enough within each of us to do the work with who will most be helped and
mhm.
powerfully served?
Yeah,
That just
yeah,
feels to me like the most,
absolutely,
refreshing way to live your life. It's like,
absolutely. I know. I know.
what a,
And it starts with a goal for most people. Like that's, we talked a lot about this week, where it starts with, like this desire to want more, have more, be more, do more. But the process of it is like when you're doing the work, it is that process, I feel and believe, of a coming home, almost like a oneness or a wholeness, of remembering who we are and who we're meant to be. And it's just, the goal is great because that's it starts there for a lot of people, but it's not a, yeah, you'll get to your goal in the process, but the growth and the freedom that you experience from doing the work is everything, I feel.
the growth
um,
is the destination. I mean, it
hmm
truly is.
yeah.
It is.
What this week our topic was rewriting your money story. um, So I don't want to let you go without talking about financial health, because it's something I always say, people, whenever I put something out there about money or finances, I have, people in my environment that are not in this. They're like, oh, you're talking about money? Like what, it's not all about the money. And it's not, but I find it so interesting. Like if you feel any sort
Mm.
of, if anyone feels any sort of uncomfortability with talking about that, you want to really look at that,
Oh,
because
yeah.
that's not a healthy relationship. But I would love just to hear your perspective, point of view around it.
Ooh. So when I decided to go fully into coaching, I decided to do a 6-month mastermind with Serena Hicks, Big
Hmm.
Happy Money.
Hmm.
It was her first mastermind. I met her at yet another program in person, which last
Hmm.
spring. And we just hit it off. And I realized, if I want to go and do a whole new route in my life, it might be wise to look at the thing that probably, whether or not we want to see it, underwrites everything. I now believe that money beliefs that we have rule our entire life.
Hmm.
And I'm not willing to walk around and be blindly
Yeah.
driven around by a bus I don't know I'm on, so to speak.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean, people without examining their
Hmm.
money beliefs and their money story, without
Hmm.
really looking at it, and for that matter, working to heal it. We don't have to be
Hmm.
perfectly healed. There's no problem there. But looking at it and being, clear with ourselves about the belief systems we come from within our families, the possibly belief systems we come from with even our community and culture around us that has informed us so deeply that it's like swimming in an ocean and you don't see the water. I mean, it's just there, it's just in your existence.
Hmm.
Without examining that, you are truly being, ruled by it, without knowing. And so, money, I've realized, is a thing that is, endlessly teaching us and giving us incredible opportunities to see
Hmm.
where we have a feeling of lack or scarcity,
Hmm.
about anything, actually. But of
Hmm.
course, it's loudest oftentimes with money. So that's really helpful because then it's really
Right.
clear. Basically, for me, when doing that 6-month program, I learned so many belief systems that I didn't even know that I had that were really blocking a lot of what was possible for me.
Yeah.
And within that mastermind, I began my one-on-one coaching, program, and
Mm.
it
Yeah.
has blown up into something that has allowed me a very different life than I could have ever imagined affording.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think a lot of that's because I actually took my gifts seriously enough to invest in the work and the time and the care
Hmm.
that it would
Hmm.
take in order to hone them a bit so that
Yeah.
I could offer them as the gifts that they are
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
others.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you say investing. I mean, yeah, like when I decided to take this journey and become a coach, I didn't have the resources to invest, but I just knew I would figure it out, because there was this desire to want to help and serve on that level. And so a lot of people, I find, think that they have to have everything buttoned up before they before they take that leap and make that investment in themselves, whether it's, to be a coach or get coached or whatever it is. And there's so many amazing programs out there, to work within. But that for me was like a change in belief that, it doesn't have to be perfectly buttoned up. And then oftentimes it isn't, and it shouldn't be, because if you're always waiting, Keith and I were talking about this before, if you're always planning to plan, you're never gonna get anywhere. um and I love, like, for me, I went through, I've done rapid transformational therapy. I've done a lot of different modalities to heal from my past money story.
Mhm.
A lot of coaching, and so the work is out there for people that really, that when you want to, when you're, if you feel compelled to dig into it. Keith, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting that Say mentions money next to the word belief and next to the word healing. What I found interesting about that was that in my own personal capacity, I remember I actually had an experience with my kids. I've got two boys, and it's at a certain point I realized they were asking me for something which at the time I was like, I don't have the money for, right? And then at that moment, it hit me. I just, all those moments when my parents, my own parents, would say, I don't have the money, I don't have the money, I don't have the money. I literally woke up in that moment and I was like, wow, this is, if I continue to have this belief and the story that I keep telling myself, I'm going to pass it on to my kids, and that's going to self-perpetuate and become something that's a legacy in a sense, right? That carries on through them. And it's such an important thing to realize that there's a healing that needs to happen, besides just the monetary or the material aspect of it. There's a deep-seated subconscious healing that needs to happen for you to be able to be like, okay, actually, I'm not going to pass this on to my kids. And that for me was quite an incredible insight that Sae brought on there.
Yeah.
It's so true what you say, because one of the things that I've learned is how we mean to go forward, we must try and begin now. In other words, whatever we take to the next step in our life is what it's going to be. And so if we're taking from a place of not understanding ourselves the next step in scarcity, where we really believe this, I'm not going to have enough, it's not going to be enough, I will work really, really, really hard, but I don't think that that's really possible for me. I mean, it's no mystery then when we get to that next place why we feel exactly that.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting when we can start to consciously see that and say, well, what do I want in this next even moment or hour or week or month or on and on? What do I intend? Okay, let me move forward with at least the thought around that is a possibility for me, because then you're planting the seed you mean to plant, so to speak.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. You can't create abundance if you have scarcity in the heart. You can't. It won't happen. You're just going to continue to create more of the same.
Yep.
But we have that choice, and it comes down to making a decision to rewrite your story. And again, I mean, you've seen me through divorces, say, like I mean, it's health, it's relationships, it's every area of your life.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, yeah.
And then the opportunity of healing we give to our children.
Oh
That's
my
really,
gosh.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's been a lot of talk lately, and, I believe like the planet, the universe is raising to this higher level of conscious awareness. You were talking about Chinese medicine and, acupuncture 20 years ago. I mean, it's just a much different story. And that's what I believe is this unfolding that's happening, is that people are more ready for this information and this material and this way of healing and becoming, and than ever before. So it's beautiful. So I don't want to take too much more of your time. I know Saturday afternoon. Thank you so much, Sae, for joining us. If there are any other questions? Okay, if you're watching the recording, thank you for joining us. If you have questions for either myself or Sae or Keith, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll definitely answer them as soon as we can. But otherwise, have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Thank you for joining us this week. Again, the replays will be up until midnight Eastern time on Wednesday, April 20th. And we're here to serve and support you in the meantime. So have a wonderful rest of your day and beautiful Easter weekend. And I'm grateful for you guys for joining. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Bye. Let me
Thank
just
you
stop
so
the
much.
recording.
Bye.